culture is obviously a hot topic today, and I think Microsoft has garnered a fair amount of attention around cultural transformation. With all of the workplace and workforce changes that you're seeing, why is culture so important?
Well, we believe culture is absolutely important to engage employees and to attract and retain exceptional talent. In fact, we say sometimes culture is the new currency. And we're super focused on having a unique learning culture here at Microsoft, but also having that in service to a mission where people have that deep sense of purpose. And so we believe if you can have this amazing culture in service to a mission that people really care about and they find deep meaning in, that can be really powerful in terms of employee engagement. Our strategy continues to evolve. We know that's going to change. Technology is moving so fast, but that culture and that mission we really hope are long-lasting.
So you and Satya worked with the leadership team to define our culture, and that was a pretty intentional process. You took your time. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it took a good 9 months, so I'll try to distill that in like 9 seconds, or maybe a little more. But when I came into role, Satya said, the number one thing is for you to help me with is really evolving our culture. So even then he knew that was going to be a real world-class problem that we really wanted to focus on. And so we had an offsite with his directs where we really talked about the culture that we wanted to have. We took our 180 leaders, executives off-site. We broke into 17 teams. The team leaders became the culture cabinet. We were engaging with researchers and experts from around the world. We met with Dr. Dweck from Stanford, who wrote the book Mindset. We met with Dr. Gervais, a mindfulness coach with the Seahawks, Jeff Rakes, who was the CEO at Gates Foundation, but also prior to that was an executive at Microsoft. And so we were tapping into a lot of experts. And then we were really tapping into our employees and really doing roundtables and focus groups to understand what was the Aspire to culture that they wanted to have. What did they want to retain that was unique about our culture, but what did they think we would need to evolve to be successful going forward? And so we looked at it from many different angles. We did focus groups with men and women and sales and engineering, US, non-US, millennials, non-millennials, really looking at it from many different dimensions, but ultimately decided to ground our culture in this concept of a growth mindset and really focused on being more customer obsessed, more diverse and inclusive, and then really operating as one Microsoft. And all of that in service to making a difference using technology to empower people.
Right. And
so it's a long process.
Yes, I can imagine. And so you knew you had to engage a large number of employees, 110,000, around these ideas, the growth mindset and so on. How did you do that? How did you go about that?
Well, as you said, with 110,000 employees, 16,000 managers, 190 countries,
right.
There's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
So we did many things. One of the things we tried to do is think about big intentional changes we could make that would grab people's attention, that we really were changing. Things like changing the performance review system, changing our company meeting where we would have a 4-hour meeting talking at employees, change that to a 1-week hackathon where we really engaged diverse teams from around the world to really show that we were focused on listening and being learn-it-alls and not know-it-alls. So big symbolic changes, but then also we tried to do small changes. We rolled out 10 inclusive behaviors and asked people, pick one in your team and discuss it, whether it be not interrupting people or making sure all voices are heard before the meeting is adjourned. So we focused on that. And then certainly communications was absolutely critical. This constant and consistent communication at all levels for people to really understand first, what the culture we aspire to have, but then also how to embody that culture.
Right. So if I could interrupt you for a moment, since throughout this cultural transformation, we've learned a lot, obviously, and you just mentioned the 10 things we learned. I think you published a piece on LinkedIn called "The 10 Things We've Learned About Culture." Could we maybe focus specifically on one of those, which was how technology has helped you roll out some of this culture change?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, I always lead with one of the things I've learned is about 1 in 3 companies that try to change their culture are actually successful. So I humbly say what we've learned so far, but we're definitely not declaring victory. But we've learned 10 things. And one thing that I added to the list, which you've mentioned, is technology. Mm-hmm. When I started to meet with customers from around the world, I realized that technology and how it accelerated our change here at Microsoft was something I took for granted.
Right.
But it was something that really was unique that I needed to call out. We were using technology to keep score, using Power BI and dashboards. That was really powerful. We were using big data and AI to really reason over employee data, to gain insights, to debunk some myths that people had or held on to help propel the culture forward. But probably most importantly was really using our technology for teaming and collaboration and bringing those agile and diverse teams from around the world together. And then also to really engage in employees at scale, really using technology to have that two-way dialogue at scale with 110,000 people in 190 countries. That's been really, I think, critical to our success.
Yes, I can imagine that wasn't easy, across that breadth. And even if you have very consistent communications, how do you create that dialogue that you mentioned, this sort of two-way dialogue, as opposed to just communicating out?
Well, and you're right. Sometimes we communicate out. We've used Sway and technology like that to communicate to managers and employees, real depth behind the growth mindset. But then we've used things like Yammer to really connect at scale and have that two-way dialogue. I think one of the most impactful ways we've done that is with our monthly Q&A that Satya and his leadership team have with the entire company. And so leading up to that Q&A, we're on Yammer, we're getting themes and questions and seeing what's on people's mind. We use that to address those topics in the actual Q&A with Satya. During the Q&A, people can ask questions either in person, but also we take questions from Yammer and online. And then the dialogue continues after the Q&A. In fact, after the Q&A, we can assess sentiment, what resonated, what didn't, and then that feeds back into the next Q&A. And so I think it's been really powerful for us to have that two-way dialogue and for people to really hear from Satya and the leadership team in a consistent way, and in a way where they feel like they're really part of that dialogue.
Yeah, and that's something I've noticed as an employee. It's not just the town halls, the Q&As, but it's also this in-between, and that's where it continues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can you tell us a little bit more, since we're here today to learn about some of those technologies, can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, in fact, I'd rather just show you. And so I've invited Naomi, who's been absolutely essential to helping a lot of our teams take advantage of this technology, including our CEO. So welcome, Naomi.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. It's a real privilege to be able to share a little bit about what we're doing at Microsoft. So I have a great environment to share with you. It's really representative of the work that we've been doing, both as Kathleen described from a CEO connection perspective, but also how we're really looking at this model for leaders altogether. So if we go here, we can actually see that we have a CEO connection group. You can see that it's an engaging and vibrant group. We've got lots of questions, we've got answers, we've got photographs, people are actually sharing all kinds of content. And it's really helpful to understand really what's top of mind for the organization. It's a great way to get that engagement and to help sustain that engagement in between all of those different events that we're doing. You can also see that we give some guidance to you when you first come into the group. We actually want to be able to share with you how easy it is to actually ask a question of our senior leadership team. And this kind of transparency is really helpful, right, to help guide you into this process. As you click through here, you'll see also that we have scheduled broadcast. And these are kind of those moments of high engagement. It's really where we want to concentrate the effort and the energy inside of our organization, but we want to make sure it's real and understand, again, what are issues for our company and really bring those as part of that moment of high engagement. When I click through onto this broadcast, you'll see that we've put together a teaser video. And it's really helpful to be able to understand, like just to get that engagement and understand the themes and top of mind that in this case, Satya would be sharing. I can see this video is powered by Microsoft Stream. And as I click through on here, we're also being very conscientious, of course, to make sure that the content that we're sharing is inclusive and accessible to everyone. So when I click through, I can actually get the closed captions switched on and off automatically. And that transcription capability that we have is built into what we're doing. So I can actually do a search right inside of this video, even right now. So I'm going to search for the word challenge in this case. And if I wanted to see the top of mind, we can actually go right to that part of the video. It's just a really great way to be able to cue and understand what kinds of things we've shared in the past, and then be able to use that as a reference point for things in the future. So for part of my upcoming broadcast, I can actually see a little bit more about what's going on inside of the group. I can see that there are questions that are already being asked as part of this event, and so I can easily use those as kind of input going forward into our next broadcast. But we know at Microsoft it's not just about the conversations. Conversations are essential for modeling that two-way communication that Kathleen talked about, but really understand that there's more to that inside of your organization too. One of the things that we like to do here is to have a CEO Connections site, and that really helps us inside of understanding the other information that we want to share out. There's a few things that are available to us here. It's kind of a rich place to be able to experience articles, news, being able to share, obviously, the conversations that we have as part of our CEO Connection community as well. And I can share the latest as well as blogs and even understand where we can do polling. So being able to outreach again in lots of different ways to our employees and be able to use that as a great source of content as well as that connection that we feel. You can also check out the latest in the documents and policies, and maybe there's follow-up from those last moments and those broadcasts, and be able to share that broadly and have one place for people to find everything. It's important as we look through at these conversations here that we understand a little bit about the impact. So over in my CEO Connections group, I can actually check out what are the group insights. And so you'll see as I scroll through the page here, I can actually check out that how many people have actually been reading the conversations and interacting on the conversations. And that's powerful data as an internal communicator. I can also check out understanding the group insights that are available as part of this too. So for example, I can see that over the last few months, we've had some really great engagement. And it's really about understanding and sustaining that engagement as part of what we're doing. With the integrated capabilities of Microsoft 365, we're connecting Satya and the organization with sustained engagement, as well as those moments of high engagement, and driving open communications at a global scale.
Thanks, Naomi. So Kathleen, it really has shifted, this idea of leadership communication from simple linear broadcast to a much more interactive dialogue.
Yeah, no, it's been phenomenally successful. I mean, certainly the data shows that in terms of the number of people who were engaged in this connection in the beginning and how many people dial in or watch now, it's been phenomenal. But I think even more importantly, if you go around the world and you go to Poland or you go to Singapore, people will come up to me and say, I feel like I know Satya, even though I've never met him. Right? And I feel connected to the strategy and what's happening perhaps at headquarters, even though I've never been to Redmond. And so I think it creates this two-way dialogue, but a very inclusive sense where people really feel involved. And it's not just for the CEO and using it at the company level. I think all of our teams use this. I use it to connect with the HR professionals from around the world. I do my own all hands. I get into Yammer afterwards. We dedicate 2 hours where we commit to being real time, having that dialogue. And I learn as much from that as hopefully the HR folks on the Yammer gain from it as well, because it really is that two-way dialogue.
Fantastic. Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us here
Great to be here today. Thank you.